We have had our official launch for the Curve Investing Club. This is something that if you've been listening to the Curve for a while or following the brand, you probably know this is something we've been building and something that we've been really trying to make sure we get right because, you know, you can join an investing club with like some random people and maybe that's what you're looking for. But we were kind of like, hold on a second. We've got all these amazingly smart, intelligent women who want to invest and have like the different perspectives on what and why they're investing in things. If we came together and shared all those ideas, like how amazing would that be? And so, yeah, the Curve Investing Club is like, it's pretty special and we're really proud of it and you can officially join.
The whole reason we're doing the club is for everyone to get together, share ideas, talk about what's going on in the investing world, as well as having myself injecting a bit of an expert lens. So it really is the most supportive and inclusive club. And we know that in the finance industry, this information has been gatekept for so long. So we're here to break it down. This club is very much for everyone and there is no experience needed.
Yeah, and if you want to find out more details or join the club, become a member, you can find all of those details in the podcast show notes.
We have such a juicy Curve Weekly this week. There has been a lot going on in the stock market. In particular, one of the biggest stocks in the US stock market took a tumble, and we are going to explain why and what you can do or not do. We're also going to talk about Australian inflation and how inflation is so important and also how that relates to keeping money in the bank. And we're also going to talk about LVMH, which is another stock that we love. It's had a bit of a tough time, but we're going to talk about whether we think this is permanent or just temporary. And then also a little update on TikTok, because I think every week now we're going to have to update you on TikTok because it's still a work in progress of who's going to own that going forward. Where are you at the moment, Soph?
I'm in sunny Hawke's Bay. My goddaughter lives down here and one of my best friends from school. I'm working remotely and I must say it's really making me think about the good old life in New Zealand. Like it's so lovely to be in nature and to hear the birds and the bees and the, you know, it's gorgeous. But I must say, like when all the palaver went down this week with everything in the AI space and all I wanted to do was speak to you, and it made me think, thank God for our investing club, because, and we'll get to what happened for anyone that's kind of like, what are you talking about in a second. But
if you were asleep for the last week and you woke up and you're like, what's happened? Because it looks like nothing's happened, really.
But I was going to say, to be fair, if you aren't super like across what happens in the news, particularly in the stock market or business space, which a lot of people aren't, because they just, it's too much admin to read shitloads of newspapers or online stuff. They might not have heard of it, and it's totally fine if you don't know what we're talking about. But basically, we got all these messages from people who had seen stuff in the news, online, and I actually want to read a couple of them out because it made me think this is so awesome that this kind of thing happens. This might sound really like narcissistic, but the people thought to come to the Curve, they wanted to know what you had to say about what was going on, and then everyone in the club was talking about and like sharing whether or not they were buying or selling or what was happening. It was cool.
And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it does rhyme with chlamydia.
It does. It's a very good rhyme, actually. No, but we got these messages from people, and like one of them, she sent us, oh my God, there's so many actually. Heaps of people. Oh, this one. Hi, ladies. Heaps of exclamation marks. Can you do a bit of a deep dive on the potty or in the club talking about DeepSec and the release of that? And for anyone listening who you don't know what that is, we'll get to it in a second. And the absolute plunge that was Nvidia and other AI stocks and how this has shaken up the market. It would be super interesting to hear your take. And I thought, shit, yes, this is great that it's starting to catch on. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, what the hell is happening? I need a breakdown, but I also kind of like, do I want to buy stocks?
Yeah. And that's why the club is so good. It's like you can go there, get the information, talk to others, find out what everyone else is doing, and then decide what to do, whether that's absolutely nothing, buy more, sell.
So with that, today, the date that this comes out, Vic, is our official launch for the club. So the event will be is probably happening maybe now. But for anyone listening, that would like to join the Investing Club, you're officially welcomed.
You are welcome.
Yeah, we're going to put a link in the podcast show notes where you can get an annual membership and join, because this is such a good example when it was like amazing to have access to heaps of investors and what their insights were and what they were doing. Because it can be kind of lonely investing when you don't have people to talk to about it. If you're making a big decision and you have no idea what other people are doing, it's just nice to have strength in numbers, you know?
Totally. And people that are in the same boat, literally, or, you know, like they're people that have invested in it are asking the same questions as you. Then there's me in there giving my 2 cents. Yeah, it's really cool to see it kind of have a life of its own and everyone's talking and chatting about what's going on in the stock market. It's quite incredible. Incredible to see.
Now, let's get into it, because I would really like to speak in more detail about what's happened in the last week. I must say, when you said you might have missed it because now basically nothing's happened, I was like, what? What do you mean? I thought that something had happened. Maybe I've obviously...
Welcome to the stock market.
I've obviously missed something.
But yes, there is a new AI player in town, and this has led to the AI darling stock, the kind of poster child, Nvidia, in the US, have its biggest loss ever, which is actually the biggest loss in US stock market history.
Really?
So it fell 17% in one day, which was $600 billion of its market cap. So the size of the company, $600 billion was wiped away in one day.
So Nvidia is one of the biggest companies in the world. Well, it's the biggest company that you can invest in that's like a publicly listed company. So in the US stock market, it was for, the last probably particularly 2 years, it started to become a way more common name. Before you first talked about it, which maybe was like a year ago, I'd never heard of it. But everyone that's super into investing and knows what's going on would have been across this for years and years, because it's been growing exponentially, hasn't it?
It's been the top performing stock in the S&P 500 for the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years.
Holy moly, guacamole, that's enormous.
Yeah.
So it's the best performing public stock in 20 years.
Yeah, on the US stock market.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so let's just quickly explain what the company does and why they've had such an enormous boom.
So they produce chips, so kind of semiconductor chips, those little kind of, what do you call them? They look like little trays almost. Like
an SD card or something, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah, a bit bigger. But yeah, they produce those, and they've been instrumental in powering this movement to AI. So they're super, super advanced chips, so therefore they can power this move that we've had to AI. And when ChatGPT blew up, everyone was like, oh my gosh, because they were powered by Nvidia chips. And so it was like, oh gosh. So a lot of companies in the AI space currently use Nvidia chips. And so this is why this company has been the poster child or the darling stock for the AI space for a long time. With this Chinese company, DeepSeek, coming online and creating this massive, massive disruption, the reason there's a fuss, the reason people are getting all kind of up in arms and selling their Nvidia stock is that DeepSeek, it has unveiled a language learning model, which is essentially AI, that some are saying is better than ChatGPT. And that's one part of it. The other part is that it is 27 times more powerful than ChatGPT and costs a fraction of the price to power. So something that can be delivered in a much cheaper and more efficient, powerful way, no matter what the product is game changing. So if you had a player, let's use Netflix as an example. If you had a player that came out and was like, look, we're going to give you Netflix for $1 a month, and we have got 27 times the amount of content that Netflix has, the quality's the same, everything's the same, of course you talk to Netflix. So this is essentially what's happening with DeepSeek and ChatGPT. And this is why everyone's worried.
So with Nvidia and DeepSeek, does DeepSeek not need Nvidia's products?
That's what they're claiming. They're claiming that they've done it without these specialized chips, which means Nvidia's kind of entire business model could be up in arms or, be questionable. Now, though, as the weeks unfolded, apparently they have been using Nvidia chips, and there's kind of, this is whole.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's evolving, and probably when this podcast comes out, there'll be more discussions around it. But all this was happening, and I was sitting here thinking, I actually think this is going to be a real positive for the AI space. Yes, it's hit Nvidia's share price, but I think at the end of the day, it will just get more and more people on board with using AI. It'll become more and more accessible, and we're just going to see this AI boom continue for many, many, many more years. The way to get around this, though, is because I don't know if there's going to be another DeepSeek coming out that's going to disrupt or, have even cheaper way of doing it and even more powerful.
There will be, right? There's so many tech geniuses in the world.
It's evolving. It changes every day. Like, the tech industry is honestly innovating all the time. It's so hard to keep up with sometimes. But I think the best way to mitigate this is to invest in AI ETFs, because then you're riding the wave, but you're not having to pick the best surfer.
I kind of have, I'm not going to be able to pick the best surfer, but what are your thoughts on when the stock took a dive? What did you think? Were you like, oh, buying opportunity? Or were your thoughts, Nvidia's FUCKED?
I was like, buying opportunity.
Me too. I put money in. I was...
Did you? Because my day got away on me and I didn't, and I was pretty pissed off. And then it bounced back 10% the next day.
Oh, maybe I missed that.
Oh.
Wait, what day did this happen?
So it was down 17 and then it bounced back 10. So if you've been onto it and invested, we're not telling you to time the market.
Hold on, wait.
But if you'd been onto it, you would have made an instant 10% return in one day.
What date was this? I want to see if I missed it. It was quite funny if I did.
It went from $142 down to about $117.
Yeah.
And then it went back up to about $128.
So I got it at 121.
It's 124, so you're making money, babe.
I've got 2% increase.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, damn. So it went even lower than that. Do you know what? I'm still proud of myself because I was like, I still massively believe in this. I put 1,000 USD in because I had that earmarked to invest anyway. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to put it straight into Nvidia.
And last time it was at that price was October last year. So if you were buying Nvidia in October last year, you should be buying it now.
I like that.
And if you own the S&P 500, you're already riding this wave. You're already buying it.
So you didn't invest in it. That's so interesting. I would have thought you would have.
I just, honestly, I think I probably had about 10 meetings that day.
Oh,
and
damn.
Didn't do, yeah. But I'm like, you know what? I was buying it back in October, so I'm getting that price anyway.
Yeah, true.
If you're investing consistently and regularly, you're getting those prices and you're taking advantage of those movements. So,
it's still low, right? Like it's still much lower than what it was. So actually, even if you still wanted to buy now, it's still low compared to what it was.
Yeah, this is the stock market jumping around. Yes, but the CEO or the founder of Nvidia lost $20 billion in one day. Imagine, like, here I am being like, oh no, my stock's down 17%. Like, imagine your fortune of being wiped by $20 billion in one day. But
you always say it doesn't count until you've, taken your money out. So he hasn't actually lost 20 billion.
No. If he sold today, last week he would have. But yes, I know. But just on paper, it would be quite like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
If we think about Nvidia's earnings, so their profit has gone from $4 billion 2 years ago to $63 billion last year.
Whoa.
Imagine the growth of that business to see your profits go from $4 billion to $63 billion in 2 years.
I wonder how many staff they had to add for that.
I know. I'm just like, your HR would be hiring someone every day.
Your HR would need HR.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be so intense.
I know.
I think the main thing here is, and the biggest takeaway beyond just Nvidia or DeepSeek, because there might be people listening who are really against AI and they're like, hating it, don't want to be a part of it. I was listening to, I can't remember what podcast it was, but they were talking about how we've moved from the industrial age to the digital age, and everyone knows that. But what that actually means in terms of what AI is doing and how it's going to impact, like, for future generations and for the next few hundred years, like, it's not just something that's like coming and going. And I think that you don't necessarily have to use it, but understanding what's happening and being a little bit more accepting of the fact that like you hating on it isn't necessarily going to make it go away. Just like spending some time understanding what it means, what kinds of companies are going to be. I don't know how to explain it. I think normally I'm a real late adopter with everything, whether it's like Facebook, Instagram. I was like the last of all my friends to do it. And it did take me ages to use ChatGPT. Like I didn't use it for so long, but what we're seeing is such an anomaly and such enormous invention. Like you're saying basically for the first time in 20 years, this is the biggest, surge of public businesses we've seen in a particular sector. Like that's enormous. So just like spending some time listening to podcasts or learning about it more. We're going to do a whole like month deep dive on AI in the club. So if you're feeling like you do want to know more, we'll be doing that sometime soon, I think. Is that right, Vic?
Yeah, no, we will be. Yeah. Like, yes, AI uses a lot of energy, which if isn't powered by renewables means that we need more oil and gas. Like there is flow-on effects that people may not like, or the fact that it might impact certain people's jobs and therefore, it's taking over that side of things. There is elements of it, but I agree. I think it's leaning in, not out, and learning more and being educated about AI, its possibilities, where it's going, and therefore discovering, what are the good AI companies, or what are the AI companies that actually have parameters in place so that, or regulations that, do limit their capabilities so they don't have as much of an impact on society or the environment and all of that.
Oh, I'd love, when you do the AI deep dive in the club, I would love to know companies that are trying their best to not use oil and gas to power AI. That would be really cool. I'd love to invest in companies like that.
With this though, it's quite interesting that this new AI player, DeepSeek, is a Chinese company. And
oh God, the America-China penis war.
Exactly.
I didn't even think.
And just with everything going on with TikTok and everything, and then it's like
they're like, we're going to hit you while you're down.
Yeah, TikTok is the least of your worries right now. We've got this DeepSeek coming out of the woodwork.
I'm kind of like, go China. Is that weird?
Trump's probably like, oh gosh, no, now I've got to deal with this as well. Like, God. But on the TikTok front, I think this is kind of probably going to be a regular occurrence in the Curve Weekly, but we have another update, is that Microsoft.
I saw this. Oh my God. I almost thought I should be buying Microsoft because that's genius. Sorry, I'm getting way too excited. You explain what's happening.
No. I know you think that Microsoft's this big boring business that's just like almost asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, I really do.
But they actually attempted to buy TikTok in 2020 from ByteDance. And that was when the Chinese company ByteDance first felt pressure from the US to sell. And Microsoft was like, hey, look, they were in conversations with them. So it kind of seems natural that they're having those conversations with TikTok again.
Surely you'd want Microsoft to be your daddy, not Trump.
Yeah, 100%. You would rather a company own it than a government,
Totally.
Definitely. But as an investor in Microsoft, I'm sitting here thinking that the price tag that everyone's talking about is $20 billion. So it's not cheap. You're buying $20 billion of something that you're not going to know the recipe to or know the algorithm to. It's kind of like you're half buying a company, but you're not getting all the trade secrets.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you're kind of actually like, that's a terrible idea.
Well, then you've got to think, okay, Microsoft has made a lot of great acquisitions in the past. It's a great company with a great track record. So you got to kind of put faith in the management team. They know what they're doing.
This feels like such a blast from the past. I feel like every Curve episode for like 2 years was, I love Microsoft so much. Microsoft's so good. We haven't talked about it in ages. So I'm like, when I saw the news about that, which by the way, I'm quite proud that I saw, I got an email and it was in there and I thought, oh my goodness, Microsoft might be cooler than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft could start selling toilet paper and I'd be like, you know what? They know what they're doing. It's fine. They're just pivoting. It's fine.
Have you done a micro poo? Use a micro.
Soft. It's going to be soft on your bottom for your micro poo. Oh my God.
You barely need a piece? We've got some micro toilet paper.
So good.
Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, we will keep you updated with TikTok because it seems like every week there's a new potential buyer and they're kind of not making much progress. So we'll keep you in the loop with that one. Other news, another stock that we love to talk about is LVMH. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. They're not really having a great run at the moment. For a company that's very diversified across, luxury fashion, jewelry, champagne, they've got lots and lots of different brands. Like fashion, for example, they have sold their stake in Stella McCartney. So Stella McCartney is a fashion brand that they bought about 5 years ago, and they bought a 49% stake in that business, and they sold it back to Stella McCartney. So they're getting rid of that. And this is all off the back of fashion. Not only is luxury struggling, but fashion within that luxury kind of umbrella is also really struggling. So the company still owns brands like Celine, Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, Fendi, Kenzo. So it still has a big, big fashion portfolio, but it is selling its Stella McCartney stake back to Stella McCartney. So it's trying to, I guess, slim down its fashion exposure. So March last year, it was 870 euros a share. In November, it had fallen to about 570 euros a share. So it has fallen a lot.
In saying that, though, I just zoomed out a lot, Vic, and I looked at the last 10 years.
Always zoom out. Love a zoom out. Everything looks better when it's zoomed out.
It really does. Do you know what? I've just had a real moment of clarity. If you zoom out on your love life, on your work, you always have perspective. So we zoom out to 5 years, we zoom out to 10 years, we zoom out to 20 years. And actually, when you zoom out, it is still trending in a good direction. It's just in that sort of short term few years, it's really had a rough time.
It's like with life. Someone said to me, will this matter in 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year? If it's a no to the 1 year, then it's like it shouldn't matter today. It's like zooming out.
We zoom out on everything.
If you zoom out on a stock price, all the ups and downs look smaller and smaller and smaller. So yes, you're right. You zoom out on LVMH.
You generally like luxury investments like this. What do you feel about this whole entire sector of the economy? Like, do you think that people are just going more towards vintage and that not that many people are buying luxury anymore? Like what?
I think this is cyclical. I think this will come back. Again, this is taking a long-term view. I'm not saying next month or next 3 months, next 6 months, next year. If you had a 5-year view, I definitely think that it will bounce back within that time frame. I think right now, and even just being back in New Zealand and feeling like everyone's talking about cutting costs, cutting back, business-wise, personal-wise, like there is a feeling of it's tough out there.
I was going to say, but do you think it's worse now than it was a couple of years ago? I almost feel like 18 months ago, it was way more dire. I mean, and I could be totally wrong, but this is just my own finger in the wind. Like it doesn't feel any worse than it was 18 months ago. If anything, it feels like there's a bit more optimism.
I feel like it's worse.
Really? Okay, right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm totally off with that.
I don't know. It's hard when you're gone for a year and you come back.
I think the main problem in New Zealand and what's such an issue is like the low salaries.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Salaries in New Zealand is just so low, but cost of living is so high, and as soon as you go to Australia or the UK or anywhere else, your salary is increased just by proxy of not being in New Zealand, even if you're in a worse job. So I think that's what makes it really hard, particularly for Kiwis.
I spoke to a lady the other day and she was just like, we're struggling to find young staff. She's like, they'd all just gone to Australia. There's just no one around.
It's actually kind of concerning, isn't it?
Yeah. And that means people, like businesses can't get staff or people aren't spending money. So therefore they're not getting revenue. So they're shutting down. It's like everything's connected.
Not good, not good.
Speaking of Australia, inflation in Australia has dropped again, which is a really, really good sign because it's actually quite high there still. Well, I say high. I mean, we've had so much higher, so this seems very low. But it's at 3.2% in Australia and it's 2.2% in New Zealand. So it's still higher than New Zealand's at the moment. This means that there is a possible interest rate cut coming. So mortgages will get cheaper. You won't get as much money on your savings in the bank because interest rates will be coming down. But interest rates coming down is a good thing for an economy and the stock market as well. So they've got an election in May actually, and there's speculation that there will now be a rate cut before the election because politicians love to use that kind of stuff to get people on side.
What is the UK inflation right now?
UK inflation is at 2.5% and New Zealand's 2.2%.
I mean, honestly, the fact that within a year we went up to like 12% or 9% or whatever, and now we're like 3.2% is still very high. It's like,
I know.
God, no wonder everyone and their dogs were talking about inflation a year ago. That's a very high inflation.
And just a reminder, this isn't prices coming down.
It's so true. You need to remind people this.
The prices are still that higher level. They're just not growing as fast as they were. So that's not like we've reversed and they've come back down to what we were previously paying, 2-3 years ago.
Because inflation is the amount something increases in the year. So if something that you bought, like, I don't know, an avocado was $1, if inflation was 9%, then that would be, what is it, 1.09?
$1.
Like nearly $1.10 the year later. But even if then the following year inflation's only 3%, that avocado is not going down from 110. It's just that it's increasing slower in that next year than it did the year before.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a really good course in the club actually, which explains why it's so important if you've got any money in the bank that it is in a high returning savings account or high interest savings account. Because with inflation in Australia at 3.2, in New Zealand at 2.2, UK 2.5, you need to be achieving that return just to be staying still, just to be able to afford the same things you could afford last year. You need to be earning that return on your savings in the bank.
Yeah, a minimum.
Otherwise, what you can afford is less and less and
less.
less.
I think another misconception is if people see that, their savings account or their high interest savings account is earning, 3.5, they're like, woo, I'm getting my money's going to be 3.5% bigger next year. It's like, no, actually it's not. It's just that it's like.
If inflation's at 3.2, you're only getting 0.3%.
Yeah, I think
growth.
that's something that took me a really long time to understand. So it's just, it's really just the idea that inflation is just taking your money. It's so annoying. We should almost personify inflation. Call it this, like,
it's like a little tax that comes in and just nibbles away. An invisible tax, like a little gnome that's just like gnawing away.
It's like a rabbit
mouse
that gets into the vegetable patch while you're sleeping and you're like, why are there holes through all my lettuces? This is so annoying.
Yeah. Why do I have less lettuce even though it's still growing?
Yeah, I can see it during the day, but there's less because there's holes. I think that's a genius analogy, actually.
Yeah. Oh, I was gardening in the weekend. Gosh, it's therapeutic.
Really? What were you
when
gardening?
You pull out a great weed.
Oh, yeah. I love the feeling of pulling out a weed.
It's like the same feeling of when dirt goes up the vacuum cleaner. Yeah, the sound of dirt going up the vacuum cleaner and you know that you've that's
I don't quite get
satisfying.
the same kick out of a vacuum cleaner, but I will say it's almost like a blackhead or a pimple, the satisfaction of a pimple. The same as pulling a weed, because the good thing about a weed is that there's the noise of it coming out as well as the feeling,
and the roots, all the roots
coming out. Oh wow, it's so satisfying. But this is I'm staring out the window looking at all these weeds and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Why have I not been spending my spare time pulling them out? Such a fun activity.
Also, I know we spoke about this last week, but it's come up again. And so I wanted to touch on it because this is a really good example of what you asked me before with luxury. And I think it's going to come back? And I was like, yes, I think it's cyclical. There's something going on with the champagne industry, which is tied into LVMH, which could be, I guess, more of a structural change. And I want to get your opinion on it.
Oh my God, is it the people are not drinking anymore?
So LVMH owns Moet Hennessy, as the name suggests, and Veuve Clicquot and some other brands. And there is increasing amounts of data coming out saying that champagne sales are back to, levels we've never seen before. They're falling 10% a year or whatever, whatever the stats are, they're all pretty doom and gloom. And there is one company, Laurent Pierre, which is a pure champagne company, and its share price, it was at 68 euros in COVID, and then it reached like 145 euros. It's down very close to that level again, and people are like, oh gosh. But people are going, okay, is this just a cost of living thing? People are feeling the pinch. They're not, they're trading down to like a Prosecco from an actual, genuine champagne. Or is it people are moving to broader trends like not drinking?
I reckon it's the
and
second.
non-alcoholic drinks. And this is a really good example of when you see a headline like this, do you think it's like, oh no, of course we're going to start drinking champagne again, and the share price is this low for just because of the cycle that it's in, and therefore I'm going to buy? Or do you think, hang on, no, that demand isn't going to come back. It's gone elsewhere. People are drinking drinks from elsewhere. They're not coming back to champagne.
So
and
interesting.
Therefore, why would I keep holding this share price?
I don't know. I'm like conflicted about both. I'm conflicted about luxury fashion and whether or not I think that that's kind of done, and champagne, because I don't know. I mean, I know luxury fashion's incredible and like amazing, but are people starting to feel like they'd rather spend their money on different things? Are people not valuing that as much? I definitely think there's a massive trend towards not drinking, and I think that that will play out over the next 10 years. I think teenagers will be like, how embarrassing. Why would I want to be drunk and vomiting on the bathroom walls? Like I think I
and we're like, guilty.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I did. Projectile vomited on the bathroom wall.
I also remember like when I was younger and my sister was like, oh, how was your night? And I was like, so good. I ended up vomiting on Ponsonby Road. And I was like, she's like, that sounds horrific. She was only 3 years older at the time. But I was like, no, it was so fun.
Well, you're like, it was so good. But like, I don't remember anything.
Yeah. I got like blackout drunk.
Oh my God. By the way, we're not trying to encourage this, but like, this is what I used to do. I just remember I just was it gave me such bad anxiety the next day.
I remember thinking when I go out, I need enough to get really, really drunk. That's not enough to get absolutely plastered. Like,
do you remember before you were allowed alcohol, like before your parents would give it to you or anything, and you'd be at parties and all the guys would have alcohol, and so you'd just go around and you'd talk to them for 2 minutes and be like, can I have a sip? And then you'd like go to the next person and be like, how's your night going? Can I have a sip?
I remember once I was leaving the house and I had a backpack because we were going to a party, and Mum was like, can I check your backpack?
Oh no.
And I was with a friend of mine, and we were just like, oh, we're done. Like there's no way we're going to get, Mum's going to see the bottle of vodka in our bag. And anyway, my friend, I was like, to this day, I'm still like, you're a genius. We had a jumper in there. She opened the bag. She picked the jumper up and held the bottle of vodka. Mum's going to be like, what? When she listens to this. And Mum didn't see the bottle of vodka. And Mum was like, okay, cool. Thanks, girls. Put back in the jumper and the bottle. And we walked out to this party.
Also, can I say the balls to do that in front of someone else's mother?
I know.
Genius. I would have been like, absolutely not.
I was just like, I can't believe we got away with that. But anyway, I kind of agree with you, Soph. I think there is a structural change going on here, which means the demand might not come back to levels we've seen for champagne and other alcohols, and therefore the share price might not get back to previous levels that we've seen before. So this is the kind of question you have to ask yourself. Is it just, the market being irrational and people selling like the Nvidia fall, and therefore I'm going to buy more? Or is it the fact that this might take a few years to play out, but in the luxury space, but I think it will rebound? I think people will get more confident again and have money to spend and therefore be buying luxury items? Or is it like champagne industry, way more structural, and people are actually choosing alternative things that are better for their health?
I think of all the alcohols, champagne has the best legs to stand on, in the sense that there's like a cultural phenomenon, and it's like quite beautiful how champagne is made, and it signifies celebration. I think that of all alcohol, champagne may have a fighting chance, but I would say if I was investing in companies that had a lot of alcohol, I would genuinely be personally, I mean, I wouldn't invest in those anyway, but I wouldn't be expecting them to be doing super well over the next 5-10 years, because I think there's so many other alternatives that are coming into the market that aren't even trying to be alcohol. They're just trying to be nice drinks that people can use to enjoy. Yeah. Like I had this amazing, I don't know if I told you about this, I found this amazing kind of like, it's called Bativo. It's apple cider vinegar based with other essential like flavor. I don't know. Anyway, super like botanicals, I think. And you just put it with soda water, a little sprig of rosemary and lemon, and it's delicious. It's so yummy. Like I like it more than an alcoholic drink, but it feels like a treat. You know, like you don't want to be just having like a glass of water. Like it just feels shit.
I think I have an addiction to Almighty.
So do I. I'm completely addicted.
Honestly, it's like I go to the supermarket. It's like bread, milk,
and it's like almighty, like screams at you because it's such cute packaging and it tastes just delicious. It's so sad that we can't get this in the UK. I think I said to Danny, our commercial director, I was like, can we do it? It was
the most ridiculous idea I think you've ever
No, it wasn't.
said in the last 4 years.
If there's any non-alcoholic brands that think this is a good idea, please let me know. I was like, why don't we smuggle Almighties from New Zealand to the UK so that we can have them with us over there? You know, they're our favourites. Why not?
And with that great idea, we will end this podcast because I am actually thirsty.
Also, I wonder if right now we're drinking champagne at our event. Do you know? Like, as we've just talked about this.
And we're like, it's cyclical. It's so cyclical.
Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the money, biz and stock market news. And if you like what you heard, we would love a review. Thank you.
Yes, we would love a review. But if you did hate it, please, don't leave one if you hate it. No, but in all seriousness, could you please leave a review? Because it really helps other people find our cute little podcast.
And we hope you have a good week and see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Sweet. Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Lol. See you next Tuesday. I mean Monday.
No, actually, though. New episodes out every Tuesday. Okay, quickly. The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.